guys. My name is Ibu Carol. Ibu in Bali means mother, and that's how we treat other women here that already have kids, Ibu. So I'm Ibu Carol forever. So this year I'm completing 10 years here in Bali in green school. And when I started working here, I was working in managing the eco village in the boarding program. And with this project, our goal was to really embrace the kids, embrace the community, and walk the talk of sustainability and of the mission of Green School, of a community of learnings making our world sustainable. So I was there dedicated for a few years with this mission to bring sustainability more and more to people's life on daily basis. And that started the desire to bring all this knowledge for the adult community, because the kids were learning a lot about that, but we could see that there was a gap that we needed to bring this knowledge also for our adults, you know, and parents and everybody. So we started to create some courses at Student Village. And then that's when the school invited me to start a project with the parents, and we started the Bridge, which is the Green School for grown-ups. And here at the Bridge, we have been already here for 2 years, and we foster synchronicity and connections. And we are all the time trying to bring a part of the Green School way for all of that. And the Green School, and part of this course now, it's this project that we've been doing with Karin. Karin used to come to Student Village, to the Eco Village, and bring the groups from Learning Options there for us to have in-person experience and immersion experiences. And Green School, it's really focused on education level and for adults as well, into values-based education. So we have actually acronymic for that: I respect, for integrity, responsibility, empathy, sustainability, peace, equality, community, and trust. And also very focused on skills. And we have a different skill sets that we foster with our kids. We think creatively, think critically, think in system, activate, collaborate, communicate. And in this course that we've created for around green leadership, we wanted to feature leaders that have bring that values and those skills to their environmental, to their work and to their life, and are, you know, amazing, inspirational for us here. And we hope they also inspire you there. I mean, I know that a lot of you guys are in Australia. So with that, I would like to introduce you Farwiza Farhan, who is going to be our first speaker. So Farwiza, thanks for being here today. That's a big, big pleasure to have you here. And I apologize for a little bit of noise here because I'm in a school. and so Farwiza, she is fighting to protect the last wilderness areas of Leuser Ecosystems in Aceh, Indonesia. This area is unique and is one of the last places on the world where we have iconic species such as tigers, orangutans, elephants, rhinoceros that still coexist in the wild. So to protect this unique biodiversity, Farwiza has founded the NGO HAkA, and through HAkA she became the voice of local leaders and organizations in the fight against the exploration and human expansion threatening the Leuser ecosystem. And I mean, she has many achievements in the area, and I'm going to let her talk more about her expertise, you know. But she empowers local communities to defend their ecosystem against external economic interests. So she believes in the power of local communities as defender of their ecosystem. So she's an amazing leader here in Indonesia that is doing amazing work. And it's going to talk to us and bringing a lot of inspiration. And then we also have talking to us today Irma, who has also worked with us at Green School a few years ago, and she has keeping a beautiful path. She has founded the Bumi Foundation, an ecosystem building for grassroots sustainable development. Her mission is to make sure that entrepreneurs and change makers have the tools and knowledge to run their projects in the most responsible way possible. She develops community-centered programs with youth and women across Indonesian archipelago that catalyzes positive change for the people and the planet. She's also the founder and director of the For Good, a sustainably focused consultancy group. She works with organizations and social enterprise in accelerating the impact and expanding the reach through communications and community engagement. She's a rock star. Like, you have two amazing rock stars in front of you. These two, they're very inspiring for all of us here at Green School. And I hope they will also share some love and inspiration with you. Yeah, so with no further ado, and Farwiza, please, the floor is all, or the screen is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the very kind introduction, Ibu Karo, and thank you so much for having me here. I also would like to add to that introduction that Irma is one of my inspirations. She led the Indonesian chapter of Women Earth Alliance, and this is the platform where women support other women to grow and to scale up the initiative and to accelerate through the process so we can get stronger together to nurture and to restore our Mother Earth. So yeah, I know that Irma is quite introvert and she's not gonna say that herself, so I have to say it on her behalf. Okay, let me try to share my screen. Hang on. Can you see what I'm seeing? Is it a presentation?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Hi everyone. Good morning. Good afternoon if you're in Bali or in Australia. I'm in Jakarta at the moment, and it's coming up towards 9 a.m. For me, it is such a privilege to come and hang out with you all this morning. I am honestly quite nervous because I don't feel like I'm an expert in this context, but probably this is just an opportunity for me to share sort of like the path that I have went through, with the hope that it might inspire you to find kind of formulas that maybe you yourself would implement in your own leadership journey. So as an introduction, my name is Farwiza Farhan. I usually go by Wiza, and I work for this organization called Yayasan HAkA. Yayasan HAkA is an organization that was founded way back in 2012 in Banda Aceh. We were born out of a crisis. I was working with a government agency back then, and because of the political circumstances, our government agency collapsed. Practically from one day to the next, we find ourselves without an office, without a home, without an institution, and without a job. Me and the team that I work with at that time scrambled together, trying to put our work back together. Given the circumstances, we have many enemies. There are many institutions and private sectors that simply do not want the agency that protect the Leuser ecosystem to continue to exist. So even from that point on, it was not an easy journey. But we had an incredible opportunity. What we had at that time was friends and colleagues and network. People with a very strong principles and desire to protect this landscape called the Leuser ecosystem. As Carol have mentioned earlier, the Leuser ecosystem, it is such an amazing landscape because it's the last place on Earth where rhino, tiger, elephant, and orangutan still roam together in the wild. If you don't know where this landscape is, it's located in Sumatra. It's a big contiguous intact forest. And if you compare the size of the Leuser ecosystem with one of the world's most famous national park, the Yellowstone National Park, you can already see that the Leuser ecosystem is close to 3 times the size of Yellowstone National Park, let alone Singapore. You could fit a lot of Singapore into the Leuser ecosystem. And this is one of the reasons why this landscape is important and magical. The photos of the rhino is not very representative, but it is a Sumatran rhino, and the photos is taken in a quarantine center in southern part of Sumatra. But the fact that the Leuser ecosystem is the last place on Earth where these 4 megafauna still coexist is a very sad fact. This wildlife used to roam all across Asia. You used to see elephants and tiger and rhino all the way up peninsula, Malaysia, Vietnam, and on certain part all the way to China. But in most places, this wildlife has gone extinct. And this is why protecting them, protecting landscape like the Leuser ecosystem become so important. But for me, personally, although I come from a background of ecologists, I have become, over the years, I grow more into loving the other part of the Leuser ecosystem, how it provides us with ecosystem services that is important for the livelihood of the people living within and around this area. But today, that was just a small introduction. I know a bit of a mouthful. But today, I'd like to share with you a little bit of what I know, and it might not be entirely true, and it might not be entirely accurate about these topics about leadership. But before we started this conversation, I really would like to welcome you to put in the chat box what you think leadership is. I was 23 years old when I started Yayasan HAkA. I was young, I was naive, and I have no idea what I'm doing. I was practically entrusted into this position quite blind. When I started this work, when I started working to protect the Leuser ecosystem, I don't even have any idea where is it. I know a little bit about the landscape, I know a little bit about the biodiversity, but I have no understanding of the political dynamics. I have no understanding of what is going on. I know a lot about ecological processes at that time. I come from a background of a scientist, and I have this belief that with data, with understanding information, people will make good decisions. I was very wrong. So when I was entrusted into the position of leadership at HAkA, I have no idea what to do, to be honest. But before we go on that journey, please, can I see the chat box? I cannot see the chat box.
Do you want me to read it, Kak?
Yes.
Okay. So Fahmida said leadership is empowering others. And then Judy said doing the right thing. And through this inspires others to do the right thing. Karen said inspiring others, acting as role model. Isabel said to influence and inspire others. Tara said encompasses positivity and empathy. And then I said trust ourselves and others. And then Carol said inspiring and empowering. Other taking responsibility and leading by example, inspiring people to work towards a common goal. Leadership is assisting and directing groups of people, influencing others to make change, embodying values. Leadership is social influence and working toward a common goal.
This is
And then
incredible.
leading by example, being inspiring and open to others.
This shows the depth of the knowledge and understanding of those of you. So often, when I talk about leadership, there is a certain understanding that leadership only represent a place of authority. It only represents people that holding certain position of power, people with particular titles. But in reality, I personally think that leadership is our ability to bring people together to reach towards certain goals. And that goals could be anything. That goals could be anything that range from increasing sales for a company all the way to nurturing and restoring. When I was 23 years old and I was entrusted into the position to lead HAkA, I was practically ignorant of this fact. However, the fact that I was ignorant gave me the guts, give me the bravery, give me the courage to take risks that the older version of me might not. That courage was, as it turned out, was seen as somewhat of a calculated risk-taking. So when we created the organization, when we created Yayasan HAkA, we partly know that other government institutions and private sector us as an enemy. Why? Because at that time, we were fighting against this big palm oil company. I have no idea about the political on the ground, and not having any idea giving me the ability to take risks, to consolidate a bigger alliance of people, alliance of the willing, and alliance of people who believe in the same goal. We need to protect the Leuser ecosystem. So when I think about leadership, sometimes it is simply being willing to forward with the goal that you believe in. The second thing, I have no expertise on the theory of authentic leadership. And it is also something that I learned through the process of leading this organization. So the story was, when I was growing up, I always have this belief that women can't be leaders, because that was the kind of belief that was fed into me throughout the years of me growing up. I was taught that women bring too much emotion into the workplace. Women could not be leaders because they can't hold themselves together. Women can't be leaders because they are too emotional. But over the years, I learned that bringing your whole self, bringing your ability, bringing your emotions with you is something that makes you stronger, especially in this line of work. I trust that none of you come into the world of conservation or environmental protection with the expectation to earn a lot of money, with the expectations to become famous, or with the expectation to be able to generate a huge amount of financial gain, personal financial gain. I trust that each and every one of you coming into this place because you have the calling in your heart. But so often in the process of going through this journey, we get tired, we get exhausted, and we get vulnerable, we get emotional along the way. And what to do when those things happen? What to do when everything feels too much? I learned from one of my mentors. There's one morning at 7 a.m. I am not a morning person, but there's just one morning at 7 a.m. I'm already in the office. I haven't had my coffee yet. And my mentors at the time woke up to me and suddenly he said like, "Wiza, are you angry?" I'm like, huh? What? Why? Maybe I'll get angry if you keep poking me before my coffee. But it's like, if you're not angry, then you should. Because anger force for change. Because anger fuels revolution. Because anger gives us the energy to do what we do. At that time, I didn't quite understand what he was saying. But later on, this is the entire theory of bringing your whole self into your workplace, bringing your emotion with you. What is it that touches your heart? There's a whole lot of theory about authentic leadership. Big part of it is on developing empathy. Big part of it is on having a self-awareness as a leader. But for me, personally, that self-awareness also comes with acknowledging your privilege. Each of us have different background. Each of us have different association. Each of us carry different perception with ourselves. What does it mean to acknowledge your privilege? When I moved to Aceh back in 2011, I just graduated from my master's in Australia. I bring with me arrogance of someone who just graduated with a cum laude. I thought I have all the answers. But coming back to Aceh, I have the fear because my life experience have brought me to a place where I have changed. I did not wear headscarf, and I did not believe in God. And this is the two things that is absolutely unacceptable in the city where I live, in Banda Aceh. But this reality, this fear, have allowed me to learn to navigate the complex social landscape, social approval landscape in the area. I learned that I have the privilege that I could go around not wearing headscarf because my parents allow me to. So through that small knowledge and small understanding, I learned to look at the people working in the organization and to understand their struggle. I have my struggle, they have their struggle. And to understand, is their struggle with the workplace or the struggle with a sense of belonging? By acknowledging my own difficulties and my own struggle, I had the opportunity to create a more inclusive workspace for everyone. And the last thing that I'd like to share would be on how to show up as a leader. In my experience, conflict is unavoidable. Once you lead a team that is growing and it got larger by the day, maybe at the beginning, the only conflict you need to negotiate and navigate and mediate is the conflict with a small number of people. And creating that sense of family, a whole lot of those conflicts could be avoidable. But as the team grows, clash of personalities would inevitably happen. Clash of characters, clash of ideologies would inevitably happen. And managing and negotiating and mediating conflict become a day-to-day process. During this kind of crisis, there's one time our organization is set up and created with a how do you put it, with a structure where it's a collective leadership through the board and the rest of the team. At certain point, one of the team members challenged the board, practically saying, we want to pay rise. We want a pay rise that is equal to everybody on the board. They want to set up some kind of a socialist organization where everyone get paid exactly the same. And this is an interesting case, because if we talk about fairness and equality, there is this kind of component. But then how do we navigate this kind of conflict? We then set up a system to enable people to take on position of leadership if they wanted to. We set up a system to allow people to rise through the challenge and to stay and to take on that position of power if they wanted to. We create a system then to allow people to grow beyond their job description if they wanted to. I realize I probably have been going on tangent now. So I want to open up the floor for your own thoughts and questions. I know that this is probably not a very clear or coherent stories, but I'd love to hear more from you to understand where you are at, Tara.
Thank you, Farwiza. Thank you. And I have a few questions already here for you. So first one is from Ibu Karin. It must be a challenging dilemma. Do I stay true to my beliefs and have a choice to try and effect change? Or do I do what I have to do and what is expected of me in order to further the cause of the organization and the mission? Can you balance both?
Okay. The thing is, of course, you have to balance both. I have a very personal and somewhat uncomfortable story that I'd like to share that maybe some of you might resonate with. There, at the time, a few years ago, when HAkA was quite young, there were one person that played a big role in fundraising for the organization. This person at the time was such a great fundraiser, but he was very unstructured. And the way we work created created a very unhealthy workspace, because once he fundraised for the organization and then he would just, crash through every standard operating procedure that we have and use the funds irresponsibly. That make it very difficult for us to navigate our own accountability. On those moments, throughout those conflicts, maybe on the surface, one could say, oh, just fire this person. But our organization doesn't work quite that way. So when we navigate those kind of dilemmas, it comes down to having lots and lots and lots of conversations, both with ourselves and with the people in conflict. I think it is very important to know and to understand your own purpose and your own goals while you navigate this arena of compromise. because if you don't know where you are going, it's impossible to steer the ship. Leadership is not only leading an organization or leading a company or leading an institution, it's also leading yourself. You need to know what you want and what you're trying to achieve. And then to acknowledge and admit that a whole lot of those goals can't be achieved alone. And this is why you build a team. And this is why you invite others to share these goals with you.
Thank you, Farwiza. There is many questions here coming, so I'll go to the next one. How do you balance objective thinking and decision making in leveraging emotions for your drive?
It's actually, I learn to lead from the heart. And leading from the heart doesn't necessarily mean that you forego all objective thinking. At the same time, having objective thinking doesn't mean you shut down your guts. Sometimes you may not have enough data and enough information to guide your objective thinking, but at the same time, oftentimes your heart know if this is the right thing to do or not. And for us, calculating those risks always happen through a long conversation. The kind of risk that we take on organizational level is the kind of risk that could endanger people's life to an extent. When we choose to sue the government, when we choose to sue a palm oil company, the people on the ground might be the one facing the consequences. The people on the ground might be the one that are facing the repercussion from the military. And for those reasons, decisions need to be taken with a level of understanding of can we take this risk? And when we think about this risk, of course, there's objective analysis, but at the same time, it requires us to look at the risk from the perspective of the people on the ground, to be in their shoes. Could they afford to take this risk? Do they have enough safety net? Do they have enough buffer? Do they have enough protection to be taking this risk? So balancing emotional vulnerability and objective thinking simply comes from a place of practice and having lots and lots and lots of conversations with people around you, with people that you trust, with people that you work with.
That's so good. Thank you. Okay, I have another one. I'm from Kayo. I'm curious what were the challenges that you faced not only as a female in leadership, but also female in leadership in a very dominant, male-dominant field, forestry. How did you navigate and not get discouraged?
You know, a lot comes from awareness. Back then, I have no idea that the negative treatment that I was receiving was largely because I was female. I have no idea that the sexist comment that I face on a daily basis was because I'm female. I thought the world was just as it is. When people commenting on your clothes, on your makeup, on your headscarf, I thought it was just as it is because that's what I have received all my life. But over the years, as I stood as a female in a very male-dominated field, I learned about my source of inner strength. I know that I get stronger when I'm angry. And I get angry when people underestimate me. So there was a case when I was in a meeting with the government talking about the environmental impact assessment that a company wanted to get approval of. And the environmental impact assessment that was prepared was so bad, and this company was seeking to clear thousands of hectares of primary forests and replant it with pulp and paper. And we were fighting to make sure that the company did not get the permit, so they would not be able to clear this forest legally. After that meeting, the director of the company, the CEO, who was present, come up to me and said, remember the context is this is Aceh and every woman are required to wear headscarf, and I didn't. So he come up to me and he said, oh, I'm worried about your headscarf. I was so pissed that he was worried about my headscarf while I was worried about the forest is going to clear. I was so angry, and somehow it gave me the strength to prove him wrong. I told him that if I were you, I would not be worried about my headscarf. I would be worried about the forest and the wildlife that you're about to clear. And that gave me the anger, give me the energy to fight, to go through the documents, to make sure that this company will not get the permit to clear the forest. But I also have to give kudos to the male around me, to a very strong male around me. People that sit on the board, my partner, my father. These are the feminist men that create space for more women like me to feel supported and loved and strengthened. And I think this is the role that the male could do.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Yes, good. So, okay, we have really good questions coming, Farwiza, for you. So I'll just ask this one first, although she has come a little bit later because it's related to what you were talking. So you mentioned you feel angry, but how do you channel that without coming across as overreacting, emotional, hard to deal with, disrespectful? In the past, when I get angry about unfair, unethical behaviors, I was being dismissed as irrational. This is from Judy.
Yeah, this is a very fair question, and this is something that us as women get all the time. If a male express their anger, they will be seen as strong. If a female express their anger, they will be seen as emotional and irrational. There was one moment that made me so angry because of the sexist behavior and sexist comment that I received. It happened a few years ago, but it was so strong in my memory. We were, myself and 20 other men was on a field trip going to a site where a palm oil company was burning forest. And when we were on that trip, as we arrived, we were about to check into a hotel. Each of these government officials was sharing rooms. And of course, I wanted my own rooms. And one of the government officials made a very sexist comment. He practically said that, oh, just share a room with me. I'll protect your safety, but not your dignity. And I was so pissed when I hear that comment, but at the same time, I could not express it on site. I could not say anything when I was on the ground because I was alone. I do not have any allies. I was with them. When that anger comes, the first thing that I learned to do is to assess the risk of expressing it straight away. But I don't let go. If I don't express it straight away, I find ways to get back to them and to channel that anger in ways that advance the goal. To understand and to know what is it that make you angry and to change that situation. For me, something that makes me really angry is when people don't take forest destruction seriously. When they don't take the natural disaster seriously. Something that makes me angry is to see injustice taking place day to day. Something that makes me angry is to see sexism. But then to channel that anger in ways that make sure that the situation change. If someone come up to you and say that everything that you do and everything that you think and everything that you say is wrong, would you be receptive to them? Probably not. But if they convey the message to you differently by showing you the alternatives of what could have been, would you be more receptive to that? Maybe. When I was in court with the CEO of a palm oil company that we were fighting against, I was testifying against him. And after my testimony, he came up to me and he said, "You were very mean." And I told him I did not have any intention to be mean. That was not my intention. And he said that everything that you said to the judge could put me in jail. And I apologized. I said, "I'm sorry that if what I have witnessed of what I think your company is doing might put you in jail. But at the very least, I see you as a human being. And if you go to jail, I promise that I'll visit you and I'll bring you food." We did not become friends. But somehow the practice in that company slowly changed. This kindness still comes from a place of anger, but it does not have to be fiery outwardly. It could be fiery inside, but kind outside, because you know what is it that you want to change.
So good, Farwiza. So good. Thank you. Thank you so much. And then that leads, I mean, we're going to have space for one or two more questions. And there is another really good one here that says from Paul, "I find it interesting you mentioned how it affects other outside of a company. So how your decisions affect other. So as a leader, how do you evaluate these effects? How would you know a decision you make will affect someone outside of that decision?"
This is actually quite a difficult one because we don't always see the whole picture. We don't always know what could happen or how how our decision would manifest in an outcome. But I think one of the most important value is to not, you know, this saying, nothing about us without us. So you don't make decision without actually consulting properly, taking into consideration and properly listening to the concern of people you're making decision of. When we talk about the community, do we really understand their concern? And understanding their concern could only happen with time spent with them. Of course, when we talk about decisions that is protecting wildlife, that's protecting tigers and elephants, it probably would look quite different from decisions that would be affecting local community in the area. So for me, it always nothing about us without us.
Thank you. Thank you, Farwiza. And I think that the last one is going to come from Tina. How do you manage stress?
And this is such an incredible question. I I do experience burnout. In 2020, I had this major burnout that at the end of it, I was unable to do anything. Someone used to say to me that if you do something that you love, you don't work a day in your life. I trust that it's a lie. You do something that you love and you work so hard, you get stressed and you get burnout as well. I honestly don't manage stress that well, but I have practice that I adhere to for my own well-being. So I try as much as possible to have time to walk outside in nature every day and have it something consistent and regular and incorporate that into my practice. Sometimes, sometimes when I can and when I have time, when I have headspace, I try to take more moments of mindfulness. I I know that I should do it more, but sometimes we don't always practice what we preach, and to accept that we are not perfect, and take holidays. Like seriously, it's important. Sleep, holidays. Like don't feel guilty to prioritize your well-being.
Yeah, such a good one. So important, Farwiza. Thank you so much. And thank you for all the work that you do, Um, I mean, I think everybody really appreciate the work that you do. And if you, I mean, Farwiza has shared in the beginning of the presentation her slides, but I kindly ask you also for you to put here ways of people connecting with you. We also gonna add in the platform later with the recording of her talk, her email and ways that you can further support the organization, make donations, and maybe get engaged into volunteers. Okay, so that would be good also. I mean, there is always help needed. Yes, Farwiza, more people in the ground. And I love how you said that leadership is the ability to put people together to reach a goal. So that's beautiful. And thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody.
Thank you so much, Phoebe.
Thank you, thank you. And we're gonna now have Irma starting to lead the next session. And Farwiza, please stay with us. Don't leave. I mean, if you can stay with us, it's gonna be nice. But you can take out your camera. Don't worry. So we're gonna have Irma presenting now. And Irma, my love, I have already introduced you. So I'll just give you the floor. And thank you so much for being here today also to share. Irma is another very inspiring person. I'm feeling very privileged to be here to you too today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Actually, before we start, I would like to invite everyone to set their Zoom screen into gallery view because I want to do a short activity with you all. And I'm seeing that there are some people who are not activating their video yet. Can we have a minute or two to just activate our video? And I would like to invite Desi to be ready with the surprise that we are going to do. Okay. All right, so in Indonesia, when I was a kid, and I know that maybe also Wiza and Desi here, you know about this culture, that in our school, every Monday, we would do school-wide aerobics. And it's not just being done in the school, but also in offices or in, like in community groups. Every single week, we would start our week with aerobics. So I would like to invite you. I know that some of you are working in a public area, but I would like to invite you to get off your chair and stand up with me. Let's see, hopefully the music is loud enough. And it's called the SKJ. And Bessie, you can go to the 17 second of the video, yeah. And then I will try to be your Arabic instructor. All right, let's see it out.
Should I share my screen right now? Is it okay to share?
Yes, of course, definitely.
Okay, can you see it?
Yes, okay. Let's just follow that thread.
Okay, ready?
Ready. You can actually rotate your head right and left, and then go to the right, walking on your place. All right. Let's get that body moving after an hour of sleep.
I can see only your belly.
Let's get that butt up. All right, freestyle. You don't have to follow the guy, you can freestyle. All right, as you take this now, I think it's time to be. All right. How do you feel now? Are you feeling a little bit more energized, and are you feeling a little bit more, happier? I hope so. And can you believe that we actually had to do that? Like, it's the whole country have to do that every week, Monday morning. It's a good thing, actually. All right. I think I have to catch my breath a little bit. But yeah, I would like to share with you my experiences in leading remote teams. And the reason why I invited you to do a little bit of that activity is to actually do practicing on how to keep our team members happy and connected with us. So that can be one of the examples that you can use with your team members when you lead a remote team. All right, I'm gonna share my screen. Let's see. Just let me know when it's already shown. I'm still trying to catch my breath. All right. So for some of you who just joined the session and was not there in the beginning, I would like to reintroduce myself. My name is Irma, and about 4.5 or almost 5 years ago, at the end of 2016, I founded a communication agency that focuses on sustainability topics. I found it with my best friend since the middle school. On the photo, she's the one just beside the computer. And that's not just a regular computer. Actually, you can see that there's another person there that shows that we are working with another person in a different country. But yeah, the reason why we launched this company is because we have a yearn to do something different using our skills. So back then, Jana and I, my co-founder, we did a lot of discussion about sustainability. We were just learning more about sustainable living, green lifestyle. I was working at Green School before that. And every time we got to talk about sustainability, we always refer to references from outside of the country. And this goes the same whenever we talk to our friends who mostly live in the big cities of Indonesia, like in Jakarta, Surabaya, Yogyakarta. Every time we talk to them about that, they always refer to, oh yeah, conservation. I support WWF or Greenpeace, all the big companies. While it's not a bad thing, it shows that there is a huge gap between what people know, general people in Indonesia know about conservation issues or sustainability issues, and what's really happening on the ground. As you've heard Riza's amazing story, there are thousands of really amazing Indonesian leaders who are doing super powerful things on the ground, tirelessly, like Riza in HAkA, but their voice are not heard. So we started to ask the big question: how might we reclaim our power in bringing sustainable development from the ground? How do we engage with local change makers to be able to voice their inspiration, their local wisdom, and generational traditions in preserving the environment and building their community? So after a couple of months of discussion, we decided, hey, we actually have a really good skill in communication. Jana, she's an awesome graphic designer and has been working years in a branding agency, and I myself have a degree in communication and human ecology. We decided to let's just create an agency and really help this grassroots organization to be more visible, strengthening their communication strategies and so on, using our skills. And so throughout the 5 years, we've been working with more than 24 organizations all over Indonesia. Most of them are non-for-profit organizations, social enterprise, initiative, campaigns, to really revamp and upgrade their digital communications tools so they can be heard by the world more. And throughout the 5 years, since the beginning actually, we focus on our work digitally. When we started, we didn't have any money to rent an office space. So what we did is that we worked from home. And fortunately, we had our first clients to be flexible with that, to know that we don't have an office and we can just, meet with them online. And 5 years forward until today, we still don't have an office, a physical office. Whenever we have to do a meeting or whenever we have to pitch to a client and they want to see us in person, we always go to a co-working space and use that space to meet with them. The reason why we do this is that we don't see the necessity for us to actually use an office space. We can actually reallocate that budget for us to do more of our pro bono work, because aside from getting clients paying for our services, we also allocate 100% of our profit to support more grassroots organizations who don't necessarily have funding to help them with small projects, small communications project. And so, yeah, I feel like in this session, I can share a thing or two about my experiences in leading team remotely. However, I am still learning. It's not all, rainbows and butterflies when it comes to working digitally and working remotely. If you've seen on Instagram or on social media, there is a hashtag that's called digital nomad, and you see photos of people working from the beach and so on. It's not always like that. The struggle can be real. So especially during this period, for almost 2 years, 1.5 years, we've been forced to stay indoors and spend most of our time in our house and work entirely out of the screen, connect with our families, with our friends, with our work from the window of our laptop screen. It can be very tiring. You know that if you've seen the news, there are more research now that shows that people are now having Zoom fatigue. They're not able to engage anymore. They simply don't have the energy to do that. And it's a very special time. It's a very special situation. Another thing that is a challenge that we have to face is that the fact that our team members are not all in one area. Most of our team members, they are in Indonesia, but some of us live in other islands, and we also have time difference, although it's not much. But we also work with people from other countries for certain projects, from Singapore, Myanmar, Japan, or the United States. And this can pose a huge challenge for us. For example, every time we want to set up a call with our team in the United States, we have to do it late afternoon their time, which is about 6 p.m., 6:30 p.m., because it's early morning in our time. And whenever we do the meeting, we would always see that they're already very tired. They already, okay, I just want to finish work. I just want to rest, right? We can see that their energy level is very low. While us in Indonesia, we're like, it's the start of the day. I have a lot of ideas. I want to share you this and that and this and that. And that actually is very, very challenging for us to maintain, especially with the pandemic. We personally felt it in our team members. Some of our team members are now feeling burnt out a little bit, not because of our work that is very hard, but actually because they are spending more than 12 hours in front of the screen, combining between work, personal chat, call with the family, etc., etc. And so yeah, these are just some of the challenges that we are experiencing. However, we have some tips and tricks that we like to do for our teams. The first one is that happiness is key. For good, as you can see from our logo, happy face, happiness beats productivity. That's our ultimate goal. What we want to see from our team members is that they be happy, not be productive. Why? Because when they're happy, they will automatically be productive. So I want to go back and explore a little bit about what happiness means to us. And maybe happiness can also mean different to you. And I would love to invite you to share it on your chat box of what happiness means to you. But for us at our team, we see happiness as being content, that we have our needs being fulfilled, getting the support from our team members. We feel energized and we feel motivated to complete our work. We have our brains filled with ideas because we feel inspired to work with our team. So these are all very, very, very important elements that I personally, me and Jana, the co-founder, try our best to create, rather than creating really rigid system of project management. You have to do this, A, B, C, D, E, or A, B, C, D, E. I was just saying the alphabets in Indonesian. But, all of these things in a very strategic or technical way. Because, again, the situation is very different. We have to work digitally. We can only be connected with, through the internet. Another thing that is important for us to keep our happiness is that we don't want to just use it as a jargon. We really do practices to bring up happiness. One of the simple things that we like to do is that we say, yay, 2 small wins. Every week we have team meetings. And in team meetings, we always start the meeting with acknowledging the small milestones that we achieve in each team member. We give them space for them to share. I just completed the presentation, and then we clap for them and we celebrate it. Or for example, I just finished the first draft of design and the client seems to be happy with it, and we celebrate it. So all the small wins are being celebrated every week, rather than focusing on the long-term goal that, okay, at the end of the project, we have to complete it in 3 months, for example. And this actually, we didn't come up with it ourselves. We did a lot of research on it. Jana and I, we try our best to always equip our knowledge and expand our awareness about company management or people management. One of the things that we like to do is we listen to podcasts. There is this person, he's a psychologist specifically for work. His name is Adam Grant, and he has a podcast called Work Life. And in one of his earlier podcasts, I think a couple of years ago, 3 years or 4 years ago, he talks about the small wins and how it can keep the team engaged. And it actually worked. So yeah, what we do is that we celebrate the small wins. Another thing, whenever we meet, because we know that people are now tired of Zoom, we always keep meeting short. And by saying short, it means super short. We do WIP, or work in progress, every week. And our WIP is no longer, never longer than half an hour. Usually it's just about 15 minutes. What we do is that we just open our Trello, which is a project management tool that I will talk about a little bit further. And we just basically, okay, so A, where are you in the progress? And then go with the next task, like very quickly. The reason why we do this is because we know that when we are in a meeting, especially when it's related with work, it can stress people out if we spend too much time just talking and talking and talking. So we always limit our meetings to not more than half an hour. Unless it is an important one, like pitching to a client. Of course, we cannot say that, okay, we can only have 30 minutes with you or something like that. Another thing that we are more flexible about is when we brainstorm. It may take more than just half an hour for us to meet. Before I continue my presentation, I'd like to check the chat box because I've seen that the icons is beeping. Okay, thank you so much, Adesi, for sharing the link. Karen is interested to how I use Trello. That's awesome, and I'm reading what happiness means to you. Happiness is being true to oneself. That's amazing. It's about balance. Definitely, happiness is about balance as well. Thank you so much for sharing what happiness means to you. Going back to my presentation, I'd like to share a little bit about the tools that we use to keep our team engaged and to keep our team, close together. The tools that we use is Trello, and we've been using this for, I think, 3.5 years. No, actually 4 years. And it's actually a very, very good tool. We've tried to use Asana, Basecamp, and other tools, and we've learned that we don't actually need to use a lot of tools. We just need to use one. And what we like about Trello is that it's very visual, and we can do our board chronologically. So we can do it as simple as, okay, on the left side, what is our to-do? What are the tasks that we are doing, and what are the tasks that has been done? And we can do it visually. By doing this, we can see where each member are in the progress of their tasks. And we can assign each card to a specific person, and we can also connect that person to another team member in that card as well for them to work together easily. Another very simple thing that we like to also add is using Google Calendar. When it comes to meeting, when it comes to discussions, chatting, we never forget to add that into Google Calendars, because people have very busy days. They have millions of things that they do every day. So to avoid miscommunications and stuff like that, we always try to put everything on Google Calendar. I believe Wiza can confirm that, because I'm very obsessed with Google Calendar. Every time I have a meeting with her, I will always use the Google Calendar, even though it's just like half an hour talk. If you prefer not to use Trello, and if you have a very small team, there's also Google Tasks. Google Tasks is super amazing, super easy. I do that as well, personally, for me, when it comes to emails that I receive. Because as you know, as we are getting more and more intense working from the laptop and communicating digitally, emails can be very overwhelming. What I do is that for important emails, that I have to reply, I put it on Google Tasks. So it's a very, how do you call it, integrated feature on Google Email, where you can just click the button tasks and then edit and change the title. Reply this by Tuesday. That's what I do for important emails, so that I don't skip them and forget about them. But going back to project management, you don't necessarily have to use Trello. There are hundreds of options: Monday, Bright, Asana, Basecamp, etc. But the key to that, the most important thing, is that for good, we only use one tool, and we use them very well. We know the nuts and bolts of Trello. What is the feature, and we really use that feature. We don't use many tools, just that one. Another thing that is very important for us as a team is that we create shared values. By doing this, we are actually building self-leadership for our team members to feel like they belong, to feel like they have a voice and they have strength or power in decision-making in the decision-making process of our team. So I can show you what our shared values are later, but for our team members, we created it together back in 2017 with our teams. And we always share it with our new team members or freelancers or vendors, so they know that, oh, okay, so this is how I communicate, this is what is important for them, etc. By having shared values, you are actually building trust within your team members. You're actually putting the accountability to each and every one of us, that we have a responsibility, and we have, how do you call it? We have a responsibility, and we have like that encouragement to support the whole company to achieve success that we want to achieve together. In regards with trust, I think in these days, especially with systems, we no longer see top-down management, right? In big corporations, you may still feel that. You may still feel like, okay, every year we have these sets of goals that the staff needs to achieve. But I think work is now changing, that people who are working in companies, they are developing their entrepreneurship. They are being given more and more space for them to, to be creative, and they're not being micromanaged, right? So I think that's the most important key in engaging with people, especially your team who you cannot see physically regularly. I think that's my presentation from today, from our experiences, but I would love to hear about your wisdoms, about your experiences as well, because I always know that everyone also have their own way of dealing with work. So yeah, that's it. And if you want to connect with me, you can connect through my email, irma@forgoodimpact. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Irma. Thank you. That's amazing. That's really good. And I mean, I have already a few questions, and actually the question that Karen asked to you, it was very much in my head as well, because that's what happens a lot of the times with me with Asana or Trello. So, I mean, she said that's great advice. Just use one or few tools. Otherwise, you can get quite lost in organizing yourself and your life, spending more time on that than achieving outcomes. And then actually, I mean, that was an affirmation, but actually I have a question to that, is that how, because I actually personally find that with management tools that sometimes I can spend so much time adding, and then I get crazy with all those emails and I get a little bit lost, into how to actually make that work. So just curious of how, I mean, keeping it simple is the best way, but how do you make your whole team engaged into that as well?
Yes, it's very interesting because we also have a few cycles of learning in project management. Initially we used Trello, and then we got convinced to move to a different platform because it has more feature. But then we suddenly got overwhelmed. It was Asana. We easily got overwhelmed with the look, the look of Asana, and like, oh, we got really confused. After a few cycles of learning, there are a couple of points that are important for us. The first one is that the reason, we have to know the reason, and every team members needs to know the reason why we are using these tools. So we want each of our team members to evaluate that. Why do we need to use a digital project management tool? It's actually to make your work more efficient. It's to make you work smarter, not heavier, right? It's to simplify your work, not overwhelm you. So small things that we can do, Ibu Carol, for example, we don't turn on the notification of Trello to be connected to our emails because it's just going to make it as a burden. And another thing is that in our team, we have project manager. So a project manager is responsible for that Trello. So what she does is that even though we have a machine that helps us to get us a reminder, we turned off that reminder. What we do is that we use the human capability with, that to communicate and to sense where we are with energy, to check in, where are you in the project, without feeling like a robot where you have to do it tomorrow, the deadline is 3 hours from now, which can actually give you stress psychologically. But when you have a person who can check in on you and just talk to you, like to see how you are, to see how your mood is, before they remind you, they can see what's the best way to approach that. So I think that's one of the things that we do. And up until now, we still have a project manager, and that project manager is in charge with our Trello. And I think that's it.
Yeah, that's really good. Thank you, Irma. I think that the role of the project manager, I think that's the piece missing for us. And it's really good. Okay, so I have another question here from Emma, and she asked, how often do you meet over Zoom? And what are your best tips for getting a team to connect and pull together? I have been recruiting a remote team across Australia. None of us have ever met for nearly 2 years and are trying to develop connection and management on a team basis. It is a team of 13 at present, aiming for 30. So how often do you meet? And
yeah. So we meet several times throughout the week, but related with operations or technical tasks, we only try to limit to not more than twice a week. So we usually do project check-in. I'm sorry for the background noise. I have 3 dogs. I'm sorry if it's bothering, but so where was I? Okay, so we always try to limit having technical meetings about our tasks or our project not more than twice a week. For us personally, we only do it once a week with our work in progress. But in relation with connecting to teams, we also have off the project management tools, off of Slack. I forgot to tell you about Slack. We also use Slack to communicate professionally. It's really, really important because I don't know about Australia, but in Indonesia, we use everything. We talk to everyone and we work using WhatsApp. So for us, that's how we connect these days. And it can get a bit overwhelming because WhatsApp is not designed for you to communicate about work. And your work can get lost into the threads. Like you have to scroll up and it's like, what people are asking can be, can be lost. So, but when it comes to connecting people, human to human, not related with work, we always use WhatsApp. So that's kind of like an SOP that we set up, where if we have a news about our family or if we have gossip that we want to share, we always use WhatsApp and we don't use it on Slack. On Slack, we only communicate about work. So I think that's how we connect with our team members, because for us, it's also important for us to know their personal life, to know where they are in their growth personally and professionally. And that's how we check in with each other every day. In our WhatsApp group, We talk almost every day, and we share news, we share gossip, we share memes and everything randomly on that WhatsApp. So we separate that channel. In terms of trying to develop connection and management on a team basis, I really believe in participatory decision making. I really believe that everyone has ideas, and those ideas are important and valuable. So if I can give an idea for you, maybe set up a call. You can set up a really fun call for you to brainstorm. Don't call it brainstorm. You can just call it like a popcorn idea finding on how do we create a management system for our team that is growing, for example, and do it in a non-conference way, do it in a fun way, you know, like a popcorn style. And you can find a lot of ideas on how to do meeting Zooms more fun on the internet. And those things are really important, because when we work, we're not just talking about tasks and tasks and tasks. We're not robots, we're human beings. We have emotions, we have, you know, we have feelings. So for us, that always comes first. Feelings always come first. Personal energy always comes first before checking on the tasks. I hope that answers your question, Emma. And I hope that, I'm very excited to see that you're growing your team to 30 members. We never grow more than 10 people at a time. But yeah, I'm so excited to see your journey.
Thank you, Irma. I have a few other questions here. So on this matter, actually, what activities do you use to bond, have fun, and create inclusiveness? I lead a team in another city and struggle to maintain a tight team.
What activities do you use to bond, have fun? Yeah, that can be a little bit tricky, especially if you are an introvert, especially if you don't know each other that well, that you connect, hello Pasal, that you connect with each other immediately as professionals. So you were not friends before and you don't know their background and their families. I think my suggestion is not do a work-related call. I feel like as a leader, spend your time maybe during the weekend or Friday afternoon to just check in with them and get to know them better as a person. What do they like? What are their hobbies? And find that similarities. And maybe you can do it together when you meet with each other. And I feel like personal time, one-on-one personal time between a supervisor and a team member is really important, other than just working professionally. But when it comes to group activities, we don't just do fun things. I think Farwiza mentioned about this before, that mindfulness is really important. With my team, Farwiza is part of my team as well in a project, the Women's Earth Alliance project. And every time we do our webinar, we always start it with mindfulness session. It can be very simple. It can be just taking 3 deep breaths, just as simple as putting affirmation word and saying it out loud, you know, and so on. So always include icebreaker games. As you can see, I tried to you know, to do the icebreaker games with you at the beginning of my presentation, because as you can see and as you can immediately feel, after an hour of sitting and listening to a really good, inspiring discussion, you also notice that your energy is low. So how do you bring it back? So yeah, getting physically, we did an aerobic. Of course, it will affect you. So those are the things that I think, based on my experience, that we can do together. But I'd like to also invite other people. I would like to actually hear people's voices, not just through chat. Maybe any one of you also have a cool activity that you use or that you do regularly with your teams. Anyone who wants to share, just unmute yourself. I would love to hear your voice. Any fun Zoom activity that you've recently experienced? It doesn't have to be in work. It can be just, you know, in a meeting. I had a friend who did a wine tasting, virtual wine tasting with his group of friends in different parts of the world, and they all brought their bottle of wine and their, you know, and their glass of wine. Emma, I would like to hear. I saw that you unmuted.
Yeah, we thank you for asking. Thank you for your input too. That was really helpful to know about making it fun being really important, because we can be so task oriented with our team. We had a Christmas party where we all had, like, obviously all you can see is Here Up, so everybody decorated their hair and hats and all the rest and had a Christmas party together. And we did a quiz online, and everyone did it through an app on their phone, so they could, you know, track everybody on the app on their phone. So the quiz was like just fun things, but also statistics on what we'd achieved over the year. So it helped, rather than doing, you know, your annual rundown on what we achieved, it was, we quizzed everybody, you know, how do you think we went with, you know, how many jobs did we deliver and how many clients did we service? And being able to do that, you know, encouraged conversation, but also was a really interesting way of being able to demonstrate what we had actually delivered, and engaged people, rather than, you know, they're just being blocks of screen. And how do you make a Christmas party fun when everybody's working remotely? So that was something that worked really well, and I'm hoping to do it every year. It takes a bit of time and effort to invest in, but yeah, that's probably the funnest thing we've done so far.
That's actually awesome. Thank you for giving me an idea for our end of year meeting to not make it boring. Thanks, Emma. Anyone wants to share?
We did something similar as well, and it was really good over like the middle of lockdown, because everyone dressed up, everyone put in effort, and we broke into different breakout rooms and just talked to people for 15 minutes and then went to a different breakout room. But it was like similar to what Emma said, like the putting the effort in, you know, putting the makeup on, the dress, and sort of dressing up and stuff like that was really important, especially over lockdown, for people to engage and just like force socialize as well. And there was also wine involved. I think that's a very common thing.
Thank you so much, Isabel. And yes, please use breakout groups, breakout session on Zoom. It's a super awesome feature, because when you meet with more than 10 people at one time, you will see that there are people who, you know, are a bit shy and want to share but feel uncomfortable. But if you put them in smaller groups, it will create that sense of, you know, like, how do you call it, like warmness, and bring that safe, they feel safe to share. Thank you so much for sharing. Is there anyone, maybe one more, I would like to hear your thoughts and your ideas or your experiences in creating a fun Zoom activity or call.
I'm Famida. Hello.
Hi, nice to meet you, Famida.
As you can see, I have a shaved head. So our branch in the agency that I work for, we've just recently come together. We've had a restructure. So the business and IT kind of came together. So we had a meeting for everyone to come together, morning tea. And the reason I'm pointing at my head is because I've just done a Shave for Cancer Council charity, and it was broadcasted over our Teams, so Microsoft Teams, and everybody kind of tuned in, and my colleagues from the previous division that I worked with as well, they all tuned in. There was a QA happening, and it was live casted to everyone who's in other states as well. So it was a really good team bonding exercise where, yeah, everyone could get involved.
That's super amazing, Famida. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think, yeah, when we meet with each other, it doesn't have to always be about work. You can also, as a way for us to support, like your friends supporting you, and, you know, in doing this very important thing, very important mission for you. So thank you so much for giving us another idea. I think I would like to share it back with Carol, to give Carol a space for us to talk more. Or
yeah, I mean, so there is a few other questions here, Ima. Maybe I can just give you like 2 or 3 questions. So one of them was, have you had situations where you have identified in your team members that weren't that aren't happy or are struggling, what do you look out for?
Yes, I have several times. And I'm not saying that this is a bad thing about women, but in Indonesia, we tend to hide our feelings. We tend to hide that we are stressed, that we are tired. We always put on a fake smile and try to be like, yeah, we're happy all the time. And it can be tricky to see if what they are really feeling. When it comes to identifying where they are, I don't know if it's the right thing to do, but I connect with my team members on different social media channels, like on Facebook or on Instagram. In Indonesia, we use Instagram a lot, and we are very good friends on Instagram as well. And we check, for me, I don't do stalking, but I always try to know where they are and how they are feeling by checking on their Instagram story and giving comments on them. And you can start to see if they are feeling a bit tired, if they started to post stories related to stress, for example, sharing quotes about how hard life is, or, you know, complain about one thing. And then with that, you will be able to kind of get the gist of where they are. And if I do that, I will start with commenting them on that platform. For example, hey, how are you feeling? Do you want to chat? I'm always here, and so on and so on. So I will always try to do it unprofessionally. I always try to come to them as a friend rather than as a supervisor or as a team member. And I think one of the things that I haven't shared with you in For Good is that we don't have a very rigid structure in organization. Even though I'm the co-founder of For Good, we don't make decisions from the top down. We always make decisions together. We create budgeting together annually. We involve people in creating annual goals and stuff like that together. Even though they are interns or even though they are just starting, a fresh graduate, for example, we try our best to involve them. That's what we've been trying to do. And at least for me, I always try to check in on them, through this other social media platform. And if you find a team member who are not connecting with you on other social media channels, if they don't feel comfortable in connecting with you, of course, you can always have like a WhatsApp chat with them and asking where they are, how they feel, and stuff like that. And then answering that they are unhappy or are struggling, what do you look out for? Yeah, so that's how I kind of identify initially that I know that they are struggling a little bit. The way I try to communicate with them is that I don't come to them as a boss, but rather just checking in with them as a friend. And what I've learned a lot about leadership is that whenever they started to open up, started to share their family issues and stuff like that, I try to limit myself in giving feedback. I basically is just there to listen and to just say, thank you for sharing. I know it must be hard. So I think Farwiza mentioned about that a little bit, about empathy, about active listening, and really trying to put ourselves in their position, because as a leader, we have to really be mindful of that. As a leader of our team, we are always expected to have the answer and be better, or seen as better or as more experienced as our other team members. But when it comes to personal issues, when it comes to them coming up to you about something, do not ever give immediate feedback or suggestions, because it will immediately put you higher than them. Just come to them as a friend, and just as simple as saying, I hear you, I acknowledge what you're going through. And then maybe the next suggestion would be, let's find a solution together, or how can I help, and stuff like that. I feel like that's helped me a lot with building a very strong relationship with my team members.
Thank you, Irma. That's amazing. And I'll just go for the last question. which is, I think, feeling like you make a difference, contribute to happiness, and your Change for Good approach must help with that. How much time do you dedicate to volunteering and helping other organizations and social enterprises? Do you give staff a number of hours per week for passion projects or volunteer work, for example?
Thank you so much for this question, because this is one of the core things that we do in our team, Karen. So every year as an organization, we always try to allocate 4 pro bono or volunteering projects that we do as a team. Pro bono means that we don't charge our clients to for our services, and every year. So it can happen like in 3 months if we have 2 projects, or within 6 months we only have 1 project, but we always decide it together. We always try to find the initiative together, and the initiative doesn't come only from me, but from all of the team members, and we kind of go through these initiatives or projects together and see if it's something that we want to do as a team. In terms of professional growth, we do have what we call PD budget, and right now we are also adding crisis fund that support every one of our team members if they ever need support, if they ever want to grow themselves in terms of skills, in terms of hobby, for example. We always allocate that budget on top of their monthly salary. And it has worked very well. I remember, I don't know if Chris Thompson is here. I remember when he was still in Ubud, which is a co-working space in north of Bali. Ubud managed to invite Google's Search Inside Yourself leadership training. It's a 3 days workshop from Google to learn more about mindfulness. And all of our team members like, oh my God, Kak Irma, Kak means sister, I want to join this training. And when we saw the price, it was like $300 per person for for only 3 days. And for us, it was huge because we have 5 people, and it will be like about $1,500 that we have to pay. But we found a way for us to find that budget and for all of us to join that workshop, and none of them paid with their own wallet. So it was paid by our company, and we made after that we decided to have that fund together. Now we have a personal development budget, and crisis fund to support our team members in doing all these things that they want to do. In terms of how much time they want to allocate for volunteering, for personal volunteerings, we don't limit themselves to do volunteerings outside of work. But for organization, we always try to do it 4 times a year.
Irma, you are amazing, and I wanna finish with this Farwiza comment which it's really good, because she said, like, thank you for being the kind of leader who are thoughtful, mindful, and kind, Irma. You have created a space where people could feel and give their best, always, whatever that best look like at any given time. So thanks, Farwiza, for sharing your thoughts. And you two are truly amazing leaders. It was a really pleasure to host a conversation with you two here. Like, big heart. I'm not posting, I'm just like big heart for you, for the work that you do, for the people that inspire, for the impact that you create here in Indonesia. In many levels. We really appreciate that. And Irma, I think you have put already your contact there. Farwiza did as well. But we also gonna add this to our learning management system. So there is gonna be a session there where you guys are gonna be able to access this conversation and also access their email address and ways of engaging, and ways of eventually donating, and also volunteering if you want to. So we're gonna put a contact there. There's always good to have help here on the ground, And yeah, Karin, thank you so much for, this partnership and for trusting on the Bridge and Green School. And we're gonna have another session in 2 weeks. So the idea of these sessions is for them to happen every 2 weeks at this time. So I hope to see you guys there in 2 weeks, and I hope that this was good, as good for you as it was for me. It was very inspiring. Thank you, Irma. Thank you, Farwiza. Thank you, Daisy, and everybody to be here today.
Thank you, everyone.
Have
a great day ahead.
Have a great day. Have a great day. Thank you. Thank you. See you in 2 weeks.
Bye.
Bye.